Good morning, Endeavor, and a special good morning to you, Don, from your family and friends.
Hey, that was great music. It's always nice to wake up from the sound of Bandela and your wife singing. Thanks a lot.
It was our pleasure, Don.
That wake-up music for Endeavor Mission Specialist Don Pettit. It was Fever, and it was performed by the musical group Bandela. The singer was Pettit's wife, Mickey.
And this is Mission Control Houston. The solar alpha rotary joint on the starboard side of the space station's truss structure went through 2 full rotations overnight in the auto track mode. They reported that they saw no excessive vibrations on that recently cleaned and lubricated solar alpha rotary joint, that the power that was used was looking very close to the same power usage on the port side, which had been functioning normally, but did get some extra lubrication during yesterday's final of 4 spacewalks on the mission. Some live downlink television from on board the Space Shuttle Endeavor, looking forward from one of the aft cameras in the payload bay as the shuttle stack gets ready to maneuver back from the wastewater and supply water dump attitude so that the International Space Station's control moment gyros can resume control of the stack's orientation or attitude relative to the Earth. Activities winding up as the shuttle station complex orbits 230 miles over the South Pacific. Good look at the cloud cover over the South Pacific behind the space station's Canadarm2 that played a role early on in the space station space shuttle EVAs as it was used to transfer a spent nitrogen tank from an external stowage platform on the International Space Station over into Endeavor's cargo bay, and then take a flex hose rotary coupler system with another nitrogen tank that's used to pressurize the cooling systems on the exterior of the station back to that same external stowage platform. Shuttle station complex continues to orbit at altitude of about 230 statute miles over the South Pacific, traveling around the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour, making a trip once every 90 minutes. The next activity on board for Don Pettit and Shane Kimbrough is going to be to maneuver the Space Shuttle's robotic arm and its orbital boom sensor system into the Leonardo Multi-Purpose Logistics Module viewing position. This will be in preparation for the undocking of the Leonardo module once all of its transfers are complete. Leonardo is scheduled to be deactivated at 10:10 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, and then the vestibules connecting the pressurized cargo carrier with the space station's Unity module will be, Harmony module will be depressurized at 12:15 p.m. Central Time. And the space station's robotic arm will be used to grapple the Leonardo module at 2:35 p.m. Central, and then demate it from the Harmony module at 3:05 p.m. The station's robotic arm will be used to then put Leonardo back into the Space Shuttle cargo bay for the return home to Earth. Total of approximately 3,400 pounds of equipment and scientific research samples from the space station scheduled to be returned aboard Leonardo in the payload bay of Endeavor. And the Payload Deployment and Retrieval Systems Officer reports that the Space Shuttle's robotic arm now in motion, as we can see in this downlink picture. The arm with its 50-foot long orbital boom sensor system extension. Once again being moved into the viewing position to watch carefully as the Leonardo module is undocked from its moorings at the Harmony module's common berthing mechanism tomorrow and move back into Endeavor's payload bay. Continue to watch live downlink television pictures from the Space Shuttle Space Station complex, looking past the two sibling robotic arms on orbit. In the foreground there at the top of your screen is a space station robotic arm known as Canadarm2. At the bottom of your screen is the Orbiter-Boom sensor system, that 50-foot long extension on the bottom, on the end of the space shuttle's robotic arm, having just been moved into the proper position to view tomorrow's planned unberthing of the Leonardo multi-purpose logistics module. This view coming to us as the shuttle station complex orbits 217 statute miles above the Amazon in Brazil, having just completed an equatorial crossing. Conversations between Terry Virts on the ground in the International Space Station control room and Sandy Magnus and Mike Fink aboard the space station related to the continuing work with the urine processing assembly. They got word that the urine processing assembly has been refilled and resumed its activities to begin the initial stage of filtering of crew urine to begin its way through the water recovery system to become drinking water for the crew. Again, a lot of testing and validation of the purity of the water will be required over the next 90 days before any crew members are able to begin using that new drinking water from the recycled system. But the urine processing assembly, once again, going through another set of cycles, following a couple of successful cycles overnight. One of Mike Fink's first jobs this morning was to start a refill of the tank that's used to feed the distillation unit of the urine processing assembly. Each one of the fills today will put that wastewater storage tank assembly up to the 75% full level. And each one of the cycles is expected to take roughly 5 hours after the first fill of the day. There will be 2 planned processing cycles today with the urine processing assembly. In addition, Sandy Magnus is working to install the drinking bus vent and fill hoses that will be used to connect up the water recovery system to the drinking water dispensers. We'll be flushing out the connection hoses and making sure that all connected in the right places.
KAR-TV, this is Houston. Please call Endeavor ISS for a voice check.
Was 6 years ago.
Turn around, Di.
Okay.
They're right there. Right.
Endeavor, this is Karen, Minneapolis. Are you ready?
Ferguson, pilot Eric Bowe, mission specialist Don Harris.
We are ready.
Marie, Definition Piper, our hometown gal. And hello and welcome to everybody. Good to see you.
Hello, Minneapolis.
Oh, excellent. Okay, we're going to start out with Heidi first. She was the lead spacewalker now for 3 of the 4 spacewalks. So is there anything here on Earth that you might compare this with?
Well, probably the closest thing that I could think of would be diving, which was my previous career before I became an astronaut. It's, you know, you're going outside, you're wearing a big bulky suit, you're trying to go do work, and you can't stand, you can't keep your body position, and you're bobbing around. And so that's very similar to some of the underwater ship repair. The advantage is that in water you can wear flippers and help you swim around, whereas in space that doesn't do you any good. Sorry about that. We had to reconfigure a compound also. We didn't get interference. So that's probably the closest thing I can think of is some of the deep sea diving work that I did.
Well, as we're watching you now kind of bounce up and down there in this gravity situation or no gravity situation, we're getting close to Thanksgiving, and we saw the menu. Tell us about what you're to look forward to on Thanksgiving Day for food. And this is to anyone.
Well, they set us up with enough meals for the shuttle crew for Thanksgiving with turkey and cornbread dressing and a cranberry dessert and candied yams and green bean casserole. And since then, we've been sort of collecting food now that we're going to be here with the ISS crew. And now we have enough food for everybody on board, which is sort of part of Thanksgiving anyway, sharing what you have.
Well, if you can describe it for us a little bit, it's not quite like what we're going to be sitting down to here. It's space food.
You know, it may be called space food, but it's actually it's very good. A lot of it's thermostabilized. A lot of the meals are come from the military, and it's food just like you and I enjoy at home. So, you know, I'm from the Navy, and I like Navy food, and I enjoy space food as well.
Our next question, since a lot of folks are watching here in the Twin Cities Metro right now to talk to Heidi, you're the only gal, very obviously, with these good-looking guys up there in space. Can you tell us a little bit about what you all do for your free time, the very small amount of free time you have?
That's right. It is a very short amount of free time. But the other day we did have half a day off, and so that was kind of nice. And usually what we do during our free time is take a look around station, because for many of us, you know, some of us haven't been up here. I visited station a couple of years ago along with Chris, but the station has changed a lot since then, and so there's just new nooks and crannies to look at. We take pictures, take videos, so that we can share our experiences with people back home.
Well, you know, here on Earth we find that having a sense of humor really helps us no matter what happens. Is that also true up in space? You got to keep your sense of humor?
Oh yeah, oh, most definitely. You know, when you're living with, you know, there's 10 of us up here in, you know, a fairly small confined space. You know, if you don't have a sense of humor, then, you know, life's not going to be fun. And so, yeah, we always enjoy a good laugh every now and then.
Well, Heidi, from woman to woman up there, because you're with so many guys, do you find yourself needing to have some woman alone time? I mean, is there something that you got to do that the guys can't participate in?
You know, not really, and maybe part of that is because I grew up with 4 brothers, and, you know, even though I went to, you know, back then it was Durham Hall High School, which was all girls. I went to MIT, got an engineering degree, which there aren't a lot of women in. I went into the Navy, which doesn't have a lot of women. I went into the diving and engineering community in the Navy, which doesn't have a lot of women. And I'm not sure why it always ended up that way, so it doesn't really bother me that I'm the only female on board, because, you know, most of my life I've been in a group with the only woman. And so, you know, it's kind of like being home. You know, again, you know, you're just up here with your friends and family, and that's the way we all feel.
Well, we're going to be thinking about all of you, of course, on Thanksgiving Day. Would you like to share your Thanksgiving wish with all of us right now, with everyone watching and listening?
Well, I'd like to wish everyone definitely a happy Thanksgiving and a happy holiday. You know, this is a time to, you know, be with families and friends and share what you have. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a big 12-course meal or anything fancy. You know, we're very fortunate to be up here in space. The only thing that would make it better is to be with our families. And that's something that we, you know, we understand that, you know, timing happens when it happens. And so for everyone on Earth, I just hope everybody can have as nice of a Thanksgiving as we will, and to, you know, to share what you have and be happy for what and thankful for what you have.
Well, Heidi, to you and to your fellow crew up there, we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving in advance and a very safe return back here to Earth. It's been quite spectacular talking with you today, and I wish you could see the smiles on your crewmate's face while you were talking up there, so thank you.
Well, it was our pleasure to talk to you, and again, a real warm hello to everybody back in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the rest of Minnesota.
Testing 1, 2, 3. This is KPAM.
This is
Testing 1, 2.
KPAM. This is a space station. We hear you loud and clear.
Great. I have some questions for Don Pettit. A welcome from Oregon. First, Don.
Well, thanks. It's always nice to get a welcome from your home state, and we've been flying over Oregon every so often, and looking down, it looks like you've been having some rain.
Yeah, we have today, but a couple of days ago it was very clear. Have you had a chance to really get a look at the state from up there?
This mission, I only had a couple of times to get a fleeting glance out the window. We've been pretty busy with our mission work, and it doesn't allow us a lot of window time like you get if you're actually living on space station for months at a time.
Yeah, how does this mission compare with the last time that you spent time at the space station, the last time you were in space?
Well, shuttle missions are like running a sprint. You work really, really hard for a few days to a few weeks in a row, where a station mission, you're there for months, and you work at a different intensity. You can't work at the intensity we do for a shuttle mission for 6 months in a row. You just break down. So station missions are more like running a marathon and pacing yourself, where shuttle missions are more like running a sprint.
You've had a lot of home improvement work to do on the space station since you've been up there. Is that your forte when you're back home?
There's always something that needs to be fixed, and I was working on one of the toilets right before I went into quarantine for this mission. So I guess everybody's house is just a never-ending series of fix-it, repair chores.
Well, this one's a little more complicated than just running down to Home Depot. How has it been going, what you've been working on up there on the space station?
Well, the mechanical assembly's been going well. We had a few hiccups with the equipment once we got it all assembled, but you have to remember that this is serial number 001 for a brand new technology which we're testing out here on space station. So you can expect to have a few hiccups after working with the ground. Over a few day period, we got the rack up and running, and things seem to be going pretty good right now in terms of the urine processing rack.
Yeah, it's that whole urine and sweat recycling system that's really captured our attention. I don't know if it's just us, but how does that work exactly?
Well, first you start off with urine, and then you run it into a distillation outfit, and this apparatus operates at low pressure, so the boiling point is reduced, so it actually boils at a fairly low temperature. And then the water comes off from the distillation outfit. It goes through a series of purification steps, ion exchange, a catalytic converter to get rid of organics, things like that. And then out comes potable water at the end of the line, and we brought a new galley system up, and then we also brought a new toilet up, and literally the toilet goes into the urine processor, and then the urine processor goes right into the new galley.
I have to confess I'm making a face right now, Don. How does the water taste?
Well, we've got our first sample or two of the water, and the NASA engineers don't want us to drink any of it right now. We're taking all the samples back home for analysis. So we're going to get a number of weeks running on the machine before they're going to bless the operation for human consumption, and I think that's a smart thing to do.
I would agree. Now, your wife has given the crew a wake-up call or a song twice now. Is that truly the way you guys wake up, or are you awake already when you get the call?
Oh, we don't want to let our little secret out. We generally pop out of bed before the wake-up music goes off, but it's always a pleasure to get wake-up music. And in my case, since my wife's a singer and she sings with this local band called Bandela, it's nice to hear some of my favorite songs that she does come on up.
Any message for the folks back here in Oregon?
Well, I like to tell folks that the sky is not the limit, and if you're a student in school, you need to study the hard subjects like science and math and engineering, and that's the key to doing everything cool. And if you want to do my kind of job, the route to getting there is studying hard in school.
Thank you, Dr. Pettit. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everyone, the rest of the crew up there.
Thank you.
ISD check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me, guys?
We have you loud and clear aboard the International Space Station.
Great. So how you doing up there? We hear you're from Philadelphia. Tell me about what it's like to be up there, the difference of being here than up there.
The big difference between being in space and being in Philadelphia? Well, there are no World Series champions up here in space. I'll start with that, and that's a plug for my Philadelphia Phillies. Congratulations to you and the rest of the city for winning the World Series this year. As far as being up in space, we've been here about 12 days right now. We're having a wonderful time. We docked with the space station just a few days after we launched, and since then it's been pretty much all work, no play. We've taken a few days off, or a few hours off in the last couple days to catch our breath, but by and large our external tasks, our spacewalking tasks are done, and now we're just we're buttoning up the final, we're making the final closeouts before we undock in just a couple short days.
What do you do in your free time, the hours that you have?
Well, one thing you have an opportunity to do is get cleaned up a little bit, which is really nice. Unfortunately, they're not first-class shower arrangements here, so it gives you a little time to get cleaned up. Of course, you do some looking out the window, some beautiful views out there. The Earth is absolutely astounding from about 220 miles up high. The colors are amazing. The sunrises and the sunsets are beyond comparison. And we get to take advantage of zero-G a little bit. It's kind of nice to float. So you take a few pictures of yourself and a couple mementos to bring back home.
And speaking of home, you won't be here for the holiday coming up. What do you plan to do for Thanksgiving?
Well, we're going to gather the crew in this module right here. This is the Harmony module. It's Node 2, one of the recent additions to the International Space Station. It's one of the more cozy modules. We have 10 crew members on board. We've managed to scare up a full Thanksgiving dinner, compliments of some rations that the food people back in Houston were nice enough to put together for us. And we'll have a true Thanksgiving feast where we'll share a meal with our International Space Station counterparts, and we'll share some stories, I'm sure, and we'll just enjoy the turkey, stuffing, corn, candied yams, and what else do we have? Green beans, I think.
Sounds great. Now talk a little bit about the machine you're working on that turns urine into water.
Okay. Well, we hooked it up just a couple days after we arrived, and we had a few little technical glitches with it. But I'll tell you, we have some incredible people back in Houston working on these kind of things. The one part in particular that gave us a problem is something called the distillation assembly. What we really do is evaporate urine, and we take the water vapor and we clean it up, and it essentially becomes drinking water. I've actually, in anticipation of your question, we brought a little visual demonstration. First, I'd like to introduce what we would call today's coffee. Okay, and today's coffee is it comes in a bag, and it's a silver bag like this, and we add water to it from the space shuttle's filling assembly, and then we drink it out of this straw. Well, just this morning, we had our first sample come out of the urine processor, and we're calling that yesterday's coffee. So we've managed to, through the technology and the great folks back in Houston and at the Marshall Space Flight Center, turn yesterday's coffee into today's coffee. Now, we're not going to be drinking this today, but you can see these are sample bags set up, and we'll be taking these back to Houston for analysis to make sure that it in fact is fit for human consumption. But beginning probably, maybe next spring or so, we'll get the green light to go ahead and turn yesterday's coffee into today's coffee.
Now, can you talk a little bit about the lost toolkit from a couple of days ago? I understand that someone actually from Ocean County, New Jersey, spotted it from the ground.
For 3D conformal radiotherapy, MRI simulation, and immunotherapy.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that's a very small target to spot from the ground. As far as the lost tool is concerned, you know, this has been a truly unique mission from a spacewalking standpoint. Our EVA folks, which include Steve and Heidi, they have an inordinate amount of tools out there, all attached to them with a small piece of string. We're going out with grease guns, with grease wipes. You know, this is really a unique set of spacewalks, and it's you know, there are going to be little glitches along the way, but we countered that glitch, and we came back, we finished the mission, we got everything done we were supposed to do, we lubricated all the joints, and the folks at NASA, again, they specialize in glitches and little technical problems, and they were able to find us a replacement set of tools with which to complete the task. And like I said, we got it all done yesterday just like we were scheduled to.
Endeavour ISS, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston. The crew on board the two ships have had a somewhat slower day than the past few days, as the checkouts of the urine processing assembly have gone well and no more troubleshooting has been required of that. It's now processed 3 samples of urine starting last night, working through the crew sleep time and this morning, and they are just about done with all their massive amounts of transfer for this mission. Pretty much all of the supplies and equipment brought up on the multipurpose logistics module have been transferred over to the International Space Station, and the trash being sent home in it from the International Space Station and the used up supplies and equipment have been transferred from the station to the logistics module. Crew is now getting that module ready to close up tomorrow and uninstall it from its spot on the station's Harmony node to be reinstalled in the shuttle's cargo bay before the shuttle undocks on Friday. Space Station Commander Mike Bink continuing to fill some bags with water from the water recovery system, while Flight Engineer Sandy Magnus works on a leak check of the total organic carbon analyzer that would be used to monitor the quality of the water that that system produces. Elsewhere on the station, Mission Specialist Don Pettit is working to gather light bulbs from inside the multi-purpose logistics module. Those light bulbs can be left at the space station for use when they're needed later.
And sorry to interrupt, Houston. I understand this is my second fill, and I'm using bag serial number 1018. Is that correct?
Affirmative.
Endeavour's crew and the crew on the International Space Station are scheduled to be heading into their pre-sleep period right now, when they'll be getting themselves and the 2 vehicles ready for overnight. However, the crew is still working on generating some samples from the water recovery system racks in hopes of bringing some home with them when Endeavour undocks from the station on Friday. Much of the work tomorrow will be devoted to that, generating samples from the various pieces of the equipment. The goal is to get 3 different sorts of samples to bring home on the space shuttle. One that is made up of water that was already in the system when it launched. One that is made up of water that has gone through the system, but the majority of which came from the urine processing assembly, and one of which has gone through the entire system, but the majority of which came from the water processing assembly.